First Laugh Podcast. It's like smoking crack with Jesus.
Welcome, Street Kings, and this is the First Laugh Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Freeman, and Kyle is still missing. So if you're out there, please check the liquor stores and the recreational marijuana stores between St. Louis, Kentucky, Springfield, Champaign. We'll find him. But today we have special guest host, Mr. Chris Speyrer from Mason City Limits.
Hello.
And very special guest, Mr. Ryan Singer.
Very special guest. Did you hear that? You got special co-host. I got very special.
Dayton, Ohio connection here, by the way.
Yeah, the old school 513, new school 937.
Oh, they broke you off?
Yeah. They did change area codes on us. He went to the rival high school of mine. I went to Carroll High School, Catholic high school in East Dayton, and Ryan went to Alter High School.
Yeah. How far apart are you guys? Did you guys know each other in high school?
No. 10 years. I'm 10 years older
okay.
than you. But you started, what year did you start doing comedy?
2002.
Did you start at Wiley's or Joker's?
Technically, the first place I ever went on stage was Joker's, but I really started at Wiley's, I'd say, and then Joker's not long after that.
It was a blessing to have two full-time clubs.
Yeah, we had three for a minute. Remember the old Comedy Zone room? That was an old strip club?
That was a quick one.
Yeah, the ghost of the strip club passed. The comedy club couldn't shake free from that. People showing up looking to give away money, but not to comedians.
Yeah. I'm like, there's no tits in here. What the fuck is this?
Yeah.
No tits you want to see?
Just a bunch of boobs.
And you should never yell that. I mean, hopefully that doesn't happen anymore, but I know female comedians in the past used to get that heckle like somewhat regularly.
Oh, really?
At that room?
No, I don't know about that. Well, probably.
I was going to say, it would see the most appropriate in that room of all the other ones.
Like,
I've never gotten that heckled myself, so I could see what it might be.
That's good. You're not plumping up.
I don't want to say that there were some smart hecklers out there. Never. Sometimes the best thing to say is nothing at all.
Yeah. Very true. So you are a comedian, podcaster,
former public school teacher.
Oh, no shit?
Yeah, 3/4 of a year.
3/4 of a year?
That was your first big chunk of material, though, if I remember correctly,
sure
and of course your first closing bit.
Well, let's clarify. It was my first. I'd been doing stand-up for about, I don't know how long I'd been doing it, but it was my first chunk of relatable material.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
I see.
That's for sure. That school has been razed to the ground since. But yeah, public school in downtown Dayton called Franklin Montessori. But the kids found out I did stand-up because one of the parents was at a show at Joker's, and I met her afterwards, and she goes, "Oh my God, you teach my son," and I was like, "You cannot mention this to your child." 7:15 the next morning. Every kid in my classroom's like, tell me a joke. And I was like, you know what? Now I understand why you don't listen to a word I say. Because the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
What was your material at the time appropriate for that situation?
It was about having a drinking problem, and teaching kids, right?
Yeah.
It's like I'm the drunk teacher.
Drinking because of the stress of teaching.
I never drank as much as I did when I was a teacher. Actually,
kids
and I never in my entire life had blacked out from drinking until I was a teacher.
Well, you're probably hanging out with other big drinkers, right?
Well, no, actually, I was on it the first time and only time it ever happened to me. I was on a first date with a woman I'd been trying to get a date with for a while. We worked together as waiters at this restaurant called O'Charlie's, and I'd been trying to. I asked her out a couple times.
Seal the deal for a while,
she's like, I don't know. And then finally she agrees to go have a date. We go to this bar called W. Wright's where I used to run an open mic night every Tuesday.
Over by
You
Rick's
brought her to the old stomping grounds.
It was a total shit show. That open mic was. It was bad there. But it's like, I don't know, 5:30 in the evening on like a Friday, 6 o'clock. It's kind of an early date.
It's a good time to black out. Yeah.
And we're having a really good time. I'm super nervous. I'm excited. And I was so stressed out from work from the week that I must not have eaten or something because I got hammered. I'm walking to the bathroom and I black out mid-walk.
Wow. Weird.
And I fall face first into a coin change machine
Jeez.
on the way down. I just remember being woken up on the floor by the bouncers who I knew who were friends of mine because we used to play Risk together. And
Old Risk crew.
and next thing you know, they drag me outside. They carry me outside. Now I'm just vomiting all over the parking lot on my hands and knees.
First date.
First date. First date. I wake up the next morning on her couch with just a handwritten note nearby that says, "Just lock up when you leave."
Wow. That's a lot better than
mean-
it could have been.
There was no second date.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot, that's my alarm because I fell asleep earlier.
No worries.
My alarm's set for 6 p.m. So
Time to get up. Start my day.
yeah, probably one of my worst showings ever on a first date. I wish I could remember her name, but that was very kind of her to take care. She had no responsibility to take care of me.
Right.
I had to go get my car somehow. It was a mess. But yeah, I mean, the stress of having. I mean, it's one thing if you fail telling jokes, big deal.
Yeah.
You know, it's another thing if you fail in, helping a child learn how to learn or process the world around them. So it was like the stress level was not even comparable to what a comedian faces, because you feel like you're failing this child in their life. let alone-
How many students did you have?
Maybe 25, 30, but then they'd swap classrooms, so maybe 50, 60 total.
Did that really affect you? So your drinking like just amplified when you were a teacher?
Oh,
Did you
yeah.
really feel that? Was it the stress or was it the
was the
I'm
stress.
actually in charge of this?
Yeah, no, it was totally the stress of the job. I wasn't prepared for it. I never studied in college to be a teacher. I never did any of that stuff. I was a sub. I was a short-term sub, which meant I was only supposed to spend 3 days in the same classroom.
Yeah.
Max. And
Yeah, how'd you transition
well,
over?
I was waiting tables on a Friday night. I got a phone call on my cell phone from the principal of the school. I'd sub there maybe once or twice.
Yeah.
And so I walk into the walk-in cooler and take the call in the middle of like dinner rush.
It's
So
a
I'm
foot-
like, why is the principal from the school calling me?
Yeah.
What happened? And she offers me the job, like right there. She goes, Mr. Singer, we had a teacher quit today. They didn't give us notice. They're not coming back. I want to offer you the job. I was like, okay. What am I teaching? And she said math and science, but you got a degree, right? And I go, yeah, I got a degree in creative writing.
Yeah.
And she goes, okay, well, everyone here really likes you. We think we can make it work. And I'm like, well, I am going to have the teacher's book, right, with all the answers in it. So, so it's not like I need to know this stuff.
I have the cheat sheet.
Yeah, so and I started on Monday because I was the third teacher. It was early second quarter.
And
They
then
had
Wait, you
two
were-
teachers quit because they're like, I
Jesus.
can't handle this.
Where
These
was
kids."
this?
This was downtown Dayton, Ohio.
Is this like the inner city or I don't know how big Dayton
Yeah,
is?
no, it's inner
it's a
city.
good size city. It's probably the size of Decatur.
Yeah, and there's
Okay.
probably 200,000 people close
Okay.
to it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe bigger than Decatur.
Yeah, so no, it's definitely inner city. I mean, it's a
Oh,
huge,
okay.
it's a pretty big downtown, and this school is just kind of like right there in downtown area.
Okay,
And,
I'm from small town, so I'm used to like that. That's what I pictured when you said you were teaching.
Oh
It's just
no,
where
this
my
was a
head
city.
went. Okay,
this was
so
an
this
inner city
was-
school.
okay.
Yeah.
You're the
and-
third teacher in a year.
Yeah, in the early second quarter, the first two quit.
Did you know that going in? You knew one
Not
had quit.
really. I kind of knew it, but I didn't
Yeah.
think about it.
Yeah.
And having no experience whatsoever actually served me because I had no expectations of what a classroom was supposed to be like.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine who was still at Wright State studying to be a teacher. She came to observe my classroom one day. Afterwards, I'm walking her to her car at the end of the day, and she goes, I just got to tell you, it was really amazing. And I go, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be honest with you. there's a beautiful woman in my classroom today, so they were on their best behavior. And she goes, no, I meant how out of control these kids are. And I was like, wow, that was my best day I've ever had. And you thought they were out of control? Wow, so it's all a matter of perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought she was like, you're doing the Lord's work here.
Yeah,
I'm so
she
proud
was
of
very
you.
religious, and that's why it never worked out between us. But I mean, I was a much different person back then. But because I remember when it didn't work out between us, I told her, she gave me like a Bible as a gift. With all and she highlighted all the passages.
Oh, so she sincerely was.
No,
okay.
she was very, very religious.
Yeah.
And she gave me because she's like, I've never seen a Catholic Bible. I was like, I think I got an old one lying around. You can fucking have it.
No.
And I gave it to her, and then months later, when it just wasn't working out between us, it wasn't going to happen. She's like, I got a gift for you. She gives me a gift. It's the Bible that I gave her. And she's highlighted all the passages that reminded her of me in the Bible. And which, in hindsight, it's a very thoughtful gift.
Well, unless it's like Judas. or
Yeah, I was
something.
going to say,
I never looked.
Yeah. Doubting
I never
Thomas
thought
or
to
something.
look.
Yeah, right,
Like,
right,
gonna
right.
say-
the whole book of Revelations is highlighted. That's weird. Yeah, I never thought to look at the passages because I remember I just looked there. I go, oh, thank you very much. But this is how dramatic I was. I go, I just want you to know I'm gonna spend the rest of my life destroying your God.
You said that?
Yeah, I said that too. Because I knew that would hurt her the most, right? Because she'd like just, it didn't, we still we weren't we never fought, we never argued. Mm-hmm. But, she just kept trying to convert me. And I'm just like, it's never going to happen if you don't accept Jesus again. And I'm like, don't tell me what to do. I'm like, so I saw Jesus as the only thing getting in the way of us being together and being happy.
So this is why you are the way you are.
So yeah, but it's funny. I've reconnected with her since.
Okay.
She's an author. She's a published writer now, and I'm very happy for her. I met her in poetry class at Wright State. That's where we met, and she's doing really well. I mean, she's got a few kids. So she's doing great. I mean, so there was, and I probably didn't say it like, I'm going to devote the rest of my life to destroying her.
Or anything like that.
I wasn't like a supervillain.
You were like Marilyn Manson. And
So
Awesome.
it was, obviously there's no hard feelings. I mean, we didn't like end in like a fiery blowout or anything like that. But so.
So when you started stand-up comedy, what was your, do you remember what went into what motivated you to get on stage at that time in your life? What was was it your friends going, hey man, you're funny, you should try this? Or?
No, I never had any friends tell me that. No, I just wanted to make people laugh, you know what I mean? And part of me also wanted more than that. I wanted to make people think about things that maybe they hadn't thought about before. Mm-hmm. So, because when I was really little, I wanted to be a priest. That never really left. It turns out, though, I never really wanted to be a priest as much as I wanted to be on stage.
Yeah.
And I saw the priests as having the most captive audience in the world.
And they never get heckled. So.
Yeah, they never get heckled because their soul depends on it.
That's super interesting. Yeah, that is a super captivated audience.
Priests have the most captive audience because, if they're a direct line to God, right? So you'd be, in essence, you'd be heckling God, I guess. But so that never really, I always had that desire for some. I think it's because I was a middle child and I always felt like I never got any attention.
Well,
Stuck
speaking
this
in
and
that
that,
vein, remember that story you told me when you did that walkout in high school? That was a pretty brave thing to do, and I was like, wow, I would never do something like that in high school. But I think that might be a story that kind of reflects.
Yeah, I always fancied especially more so when I was younger, I fancied myself as I need to do something with my life. You know what I mean? I need to make big changes in the world. Mm-hmm. So I fancied myself kind of not a revolutionary, but at times a revolutionary.
This is your high school angst or post high school or?
No, this is in high school.
Or still right now, yeah.
Yeah. So grade school, high school, more specifically junior high, and then high school is when two friends of mine got busted for having paraphernalia in their car, parked on the street in front of our high school.
Nazi paraphernalia.
Marijuana. Yeah. It was a really nice swastika pipe. And so I knew that it was an illegal search and seizure of their car, like the school, because it wasn't parked on school property.
Yeah.
The car wasn't. And so the school obviously called in the cops, hey, search this car. And two good friends of mine, because a buddy of mine in high school realized his dad was growing a bunch of weed on their farm.
Okay.
We were sophomores in high school.
Was this like late 90s?
This is like early 90s. I was in high school. I graduated in 94.
Okay.
So weed was still like the devil's weed,
Yeah.
right? So
Dare was heavily going on. Yeah.
Dare was big. So my buddy Matt realizes his dad's growing copious amounts of marijuana on their farm in Waynesville, Ohio, which is kind of out in the boondocks a little bit. At least at the time it was. Also one of the most haunted places in Ohio, like that town. But anyway, so he discovers this in a freezer in their barn. There's just bricks upon bricks of marijuana. So we start smoking marijuana. And he would just have me and a couple buddies. We'd spend the night over at their farmhouse on the weekends, and we'd have a bonfire. And just the first time I ever smoked weed was out of a pipe that I made, out of a hollow stick and a corn cob.
Yeah.
And I swear I saw a UFO that night. And so we were just off to the races at that point. I mean, I was 15 years old. Probably shouldn't have been smoking marijuana as much as I was at the time because I was so young. But and so me and my close buddies were kind of like smoking pot all the time.
Yeah.
And so two of my good buddies get kicked out of high school
Jesus.
for it because they have a pipe in their car.
Again,
Yeah,
this is a
that's-
private Catholic school.
A private Catholic school, which
And that's
you
like
you
heroin
sign
at the
over
time,
all
yeah.
of your freedoms to a private Catholic school or private school in general,
Yeah.
right? You have no rights. And so, but I knew that this was an illegal search and seizure. My dad was a lawyer. I knew a little bit about stuff. And I was just really angry that this happened to my buddies. So I organized a walkout. And this is back when Channel 1 was a thing, which was a news program that aired inside of schools on TV.
I had that, yeah.
Anderson Cooper was one of the first. He was one of the news anchors on Channel 1.
I had Maria Menounos.
Yeah.
I had
so,
her, yeah.
So Channel 1, and every day on Channel 1 during the broadcast, which would air right after lunch, there was something called a pop quiz. And so I told everybody, pop quiz during Channel 1, that's
Walk
your
out.
cue
Yeah.
to walk out. So we're just sitting at the desks. The day arrives. I've got like 100. I mean, there's probably 650 kids in the school. I've got like maybe 75, 100 kids that have said,
Yeah, I'm with you, man.
I'm with you. So Channel 1 starts. Everybody's just kind of like looking at each other at the desk. The teacher's like staring at me.
Here it comes.
Because teachers maybe had caught wind of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't realize that, but not looking back, like the teacher was just like staring at me the whole time once Channel 1 started.
Yeah, don't do it, motherfucker.
So then they go,
Yeah.
okay, time for the pop quiz. And I go, there it is. And I stand up and I start walking up. And the teacher's like, Mr. Singer, don't do it. Mr. Singer, don't do it. Mr. Singer, don't do it. And I turn around and nobody else is standing up. And I look at him and I'm just like, are you serious?
Yeah.
Nobody?
Yeah.
I felt like Jerry Maguire. Who's coming with me? And
And verbal confirmation of this, you
So-
promised.
so then I'm just like, screw it.
Yeah.
And I walk out of the classroom. I'm expecting to see the hallways filled with my compatriots.
Yep.
It is a ghost town. I walk by where I know my best friend in the world is in his homeroom class. I go to the doorway, I look inside, and I'm like, Ben, let's go. And I think he's like, oh, damn it. And he stands up
Yeah.
and walks
Damn
out.
it, I'm a good friend.
And so he walks out. A couple of my other buddies walk out, mostly the guys who like to smoke weed. And then there's maybe only 7 of us at the most, I think, if I can remember. It's such a long time ago. And
So you got 1% of the high school then?
right?
Right.
And then there's an art building that's separate from the main
Yeah.
school building.
Uh-huh.
And so there's a bunch of us out there just like, you know, it was Tim and Aaron who got kicked out. We're like, you know, Tim and Aaron, bring them back, Tim and Aaron, or whatever slogan we came up
Yeah.
with. And there's a bunch of freshmen walking to the art building or back and forth from the art building in between because the bell rings after Channel 1's over. And a bunch of freshmen are just like, what's going on out here? And we're like, this is a walkout. They're violating basic
Constitutional
rights. And so like 25 freshmen were like, cool. And they join us.
Oh, no shit.
They have no idea what's going on. And they join because they're just like, cool. Right?
They're hanging out with
Upperclassmen. All right.
So my buddy Randy Lean, who we thought was going to be in the PGA Tour, and who knows, he might still make it. I mean, he's the best golfer I've ever seen in my life in person. And he's a golf pro, all that stuff. So he's there. I go get my car. I pull up my car. We're right in front. And then it's like a 2 or 3 story building. And then like the offices to like the windows, the windows to like the administration office.
You're right in front of
there.
that. Okay.
And so I pull my car up. Randy pulls his car up. We turn our radios up. We're dancing on our cars. We're just having a party, right? Like nobody's doing anything in their classroom because they're like, what's going on out here, right? All the students are like, what's going on out there? And I'm like, this is the walk. We're like dancing. Like, this is bullshit. So finally, the principal comes down after about 15 minutes of this chaos that I've started. And he comes down. He's like, I need all the students to come here right now. Listen to me. So we all walk up, and I'm standing right up front. And he goes, I'm going to give you the chance right now to come back inside. And if you come back inside now, there will be no discipline. There will be no retribution. We're going to forget any of it happened. And I go, well, how do you explain violating the constitutional rights of students here when it's an illegal search? And he looks at me and goes, you need to shut the hell up, Speyrer. Only time I ever saw him lose his cool. And I saw how angry he was, and I was like, oh shit,
Uh-oh.
I'm like,
I've never seen that face
I'm
before.
like 16 years old, so I'm just like, ugh, uh-oh. And so then I go, don't do it, don't go in, don't let them beat us. Maybe half the kids, the freshmen were like, oh shit, I didn't realize. We better get out of here. We're going to get out of school before it even starts. So maybe about 12 of us stayed outside. And then we were just hanging out in the parking lot of the school, like looking up at the audience, or the audience.
The audience,
That was your first audience.
The principals and stuff. And then finally I was like, what, screw this. Let's go play Sega at my house. And I go, I'm going to go play Sega for a little while. Don't fucking leave. Right? That was my first lesson. Like, you cut off the head of the snake, the body dies.
Yeah.
And so I go play Sega with a couple buddies, come back. They're all inside. Of
course,
they all abandoned the cause because I abandoned the cause.
Yeah,
even though I thought I was just
Rabble-Rouser,
taking the cause to another level.
Yeah.
And so I think it's me and my buddy Eric Nagel, and come back from my house, and they're like, oh yeah, they came out one more time and they said if you come back in before the end of the school day, there'll be no retribution. And so I was like, And so I find somebody who's got somehow I run into somebody in the hallway. I go to my locker. I was like, what's our homework for tomorrow? I got to know our homework. And somehow I sneak back into the school, get my stuff, and then mostly escaped any punishment. And it was the end of the day, and then just kind of the bell rings, and I just kind of like walk out with everybody else, even though I never even really went back into my classroom.
You say, were you like hiding in the bathroom?
Yeah,
just waiting
I
for
think I got there right before the bell. Like we
Yeah.
timed it up to get there right before the end of the school day. And I'm pretty sure I probably got called into the office first thing the next morning.
Of course.
The kids never got, reinstated.
They never got
allowed back.
unexpelled.
They never got unexpelled. And I was probably as close as I've ever come to being expelled. But I mean, there was a couple other times I got really close. Like one time I stole an advanced biology exam or test from the teacher's desk.
Yeah.
Because he was a cross country coach, so he would sometimes leave school early with the team to go to a meet. I snuck in there, stole the test from his desk, made a bunch of copies, and sold it to other students.
All right.
For like
You're
10
an
cents.
entrepreneur at this time.
So, and I still got a 47 on the test. I
You
stole
forgot
the
to
test.
keep. You forgot to keep
That's
one
how
copy.
hard the test was. I couldn't even look up the answers in time
Yeah.
to figure it out.
Oh, it was
I-
just the test. It wasn't the answers. Oh,
No,
okay.
it was just
okay.
the test.
I was thinking it was the
so
answers.
I get caught doing that. First, my brother gets caught because my brother finds me in the hallway one day. This was like maybe a couple days after the test
older,
had
younger?
happened. Older brother.
Okay.
He was a grade above me. He goes, I don't know what the hell you did, but they know.
You're rattling some cages
And
here.
I go, what are you talking about? He goes, I just got called in to the head disciplinarian's office, who was also like the physical trainer, football coach,
yeah.
Mr. Rourke, and he had like a handlebar, you know, and he was
yeah.
just like all jacked.
Yeah.
And he's like, they accused me of stealing a test and selling a stolen test to a bunch of students. I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so I can only assume it's you. They figure out it's me. They call me in. The most shameful thing I've ever done in my life, probably. They bust me, right? And they're like, who else was involved? And I was like, nobody else was involved, it's just me. Like, who else was involved? You're going down for this, and you're going down hard. And I was just like, and I had a buddy named Alex, whose dad would let us drink at their house, and you know,
You threw
really loose dad,
Yeah,
really
yeah.
loose
Yeah.
parenting, right?
Uh-huh.
At least from my, at the time. So I was like, so in my mind, I scanned. I was like, who can I
Yeah.
pin this on who won't get in trouble?
Oh, okay. All right.
And it was my buddy Alex. So I go,
Yeah.
Alex, Alex. And they're like, okay. And then he got busted. He really had nothing to fucking do with
Oh
it.
man.
The poor guy. So I totally like crumbled under the pressure, and then threw one of my best buddies under the bus when he had nothing to do with it. I mean, I think I gave him a copy of the test, but
Yeah.
but it was an advanced biology class where I don't know how I tested into it. This must have been my freshman year,
Yeah.
because
So the walkout came after this.
the walkout came after
Wow.
this, and so I had no business being in advanced biology at the time.
You had no business being in that school after that was your second big strike, man.
Yeah, so I didn't want to go to that school. I wanted to go
Yeah.
to the Fairmont High School, the public school right across the street from my house, because they had a TV station and a radio station. And my parents didn't care. My mom was hell-bent on going to Catholic school. So it turns out this guy, oh God, I can't remember this teacher's name. He fucking hated me. Obviously, he hated me, right? Like, I stole a test from him. The next year, I think I'm in his class again. We're in anatomy now. And, we're dissecting cats and all this gross stuff.
Yeah.
And this kid turns around. Yeah, and it was the kid who I walked out for. Turns around and stabs my cat's
shit.
eyeball with one of those probe
Oh
things.
man.
And I was like, oh, shit, come on, Aaron. And then the teacher's like, Singer, what are you doing back there, Singer? He was like this big guy, like, Singer, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of you. And I was like, I didn't do anything. He goes, you didn't do anything? That sounds about right. You haven't done anything all year, have you? And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm just sitting here, and he stabs my cat's eyeball out and squirts eyeball juice on me.
Yeah.
I freak out. He goes, well, I'm going to show everybody just how little you've done. And then he gets out his grade book, and he writes all of my grades
Oh wow.
from every like quiz
God
or
damn,
test
man.
or whatever
Shit.
on the board.
That's your
right?
first heckler, by
Yeah.
the way.
What the
Yeah,
fuck?
right. And so he's writing. He's like, so what do you think you're going to be taking? Whatever the next science class was after
Yeah.
anatomy. And I go, here, and he goes, what science do you think you'll be studying next year? And I said, whatever the next one was, geology or whatever it was. And he goes, where? Fairmont, which was the public school.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I don't got to take this.
Yeah.
And he goes, what? And I go, I don't got to take this. You're not allowed to publicly humiliate. So I stand up, I walk out of class, I go up to the principal's office, and he wasn't in, so I talked to the assistant principal, and I was like, what's his name down there? I can't remember the guy's name. He's publicly shaming me. He's like writing all my grades on the board. I didn't do anything.
This would be
Yeah.
like considered abuse today.
Oh yeah.
So-
Yeah.
And of course, he doesn't believe a word I say.
Yeah.
And makes me write an apology letter to the guy, right? Or actually, I had to write the apology after I stole the test. This was later. So I go back into the classroom right before it's over, and he doesn't say a word to me. And he doesn't get in any trouble. I'm sure maybe they talked to him
Yeah.
in hindsight,
But I was like, oh, it's just.
but yeah, so I almost got kicked out for that. I showed up at a junior year dance, totally hammered.
Did you want to get expelled so you could
No,
go
I
to public
just
school?
didn't. I didn't care really.
Okay.
And so,
I feel feel like you were listening to a lot of Rage Against the Machine at the time.
You know, I was listening to a lot of Guns N' Roses.
Okay, all right.
A lot of Snoop
I'll do
Dogg.
it too, yeah.
And showed up totally hammered at like a dance, a cotillion or whatever the hell it was. But my only saving grace is I showed up totally hammered with all of the star athletes of the major sports programs at our high school. And they took sports very seriously, like basketball and football especially.
Yeah.
So you're just all buddies with them?
Yeah, I was buddies with everybody. Like I was buddies with like the nerds, the jocks, you know.
Yeah.
And so I showed up totally hammered, so they couldn't kick these kids out of school because it was like my buddy Jerry, who ended up being a starting linebacker for Ohio State.
So were they all hammered with you?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so everyone was shit-faced.
My buddy Randy, who was like going to bring a state championship of golf to the high school. Jerry, who was starting linebacker for Ohio State right after we graduated.
Yeah.
Full scholarship. You know, my buddy Mike, I think, who was like is like the best like defensive back one of the best defensive backs in the state.
Yeah.
And so it was with them that I was drunk with and showed up, so they couldn't.
Yeah, they couldn't get you in trouble without getting them in trouble.
And so my dad and my mom somehow found out about this. It was a big scandal in the school that all these kids showed up drunk. And nothing
It sounds
really
like you had a
happened.
scandal per year, right?
Yeah.
You installed the test on the freshman year, you did the walkout sophomore, you got drunk on the junior year.
Yeah, and then, because I remember my parents talking to me about the scandal and being like, you know what, it's like for all the trouble you've gotten in for things, if you would have been a star athlete, it doesn't look like you would have gotten in any trouble at all. Because I got like major suspensions for these other things.
Yeah.
I was definitely suspended after the walkout. But,
So they were saying that against you or against the school?
They were saying it against the school. They were pissed.
Oh, the system.
They were pissed that
Okay,
I'd gotten
yeah.
in so much trouble in the past.
Yeah.
I see,
But these
okay.
star athletes
Yeah.
got nothing but a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
And I was silently sitting there going, please don't push this with the school
Yeah.
because I was involved. But they didn't realize I was
they didn't
involved.
know you were involved.
They
in
didn't
that.
realize I was involved with it.
Okay.
And they were pissed off because a lot of the parents were like, you need to punish these kids. This is, you know, you're showing them favorable treatment. Of
course.
And meanwhile, I'm like, please don't punish these kids.
just
Because
drop
you don't
it.
realize that I was actually involved. So I got away with it just by proxy. And then I had another thing in college with my fraternity where I stormed into the school paper and demanded to see a writer of an article that was a bunch of BS and had misinformation in it about our fraternity when we had a pledge, you know, go to the hospital during an event, a ceremony kind of thing, from alcohol poisoning. And they made it sound like we got a girl super drunk and just left her on our front lawn, which never happened.
Yeah.
Because the pledge's name was gender neutral.
Oh, I said like a Terry or something like that.
I think it was Christian.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, the kid, thank God the kid didn't fucking die. I mean, because I was like vice president of Rush and membership to I mean, I would have been in jail if this kid fucking
Jesus,
died.
yeah.
And
What were you guys drinking?
Manslaughter.
we were drinking, it was Big Brother, Little Brother night, which means a bottle of liquor gets passed down in each individual family inside the fraternity, right? Like my big brother, like the family that I was tapped into was tequila. I actually did black out that night. I'm sure, because I pissed my bed and all that stuff. So I'm not sure what his liquor was, but the mistake this kid made was he drank a bottle of Pepto-Bismol before the night.
I never heard of that.
Because he'd heard that'll make you not throw up.
Coats your stomach. That's what I've heard. Yeah.
But the problem is, it coats your stomach, and then as soon as it wears off, all of that alcohol that you
Hits you-
consumed over the duration
hits you at once.
hits you at once, and now you're in big trouble. So the kid was in a coma for like 24 hours.
Jesus.
Luckily, I called 911.
Yeah.
Because, me and my best friend from high school, this guy Joe, we went to Bowling Green State University together. We joined this fraternity together. My brother was actually in the fraternity too. And I never thought I'd join a fraternity, but they were like a fun, cool fraternity.
That's also what I was going to say is
Yeah.
you don't look like the fraternity type.
Yeah, well,
but
they
it was
were a
also the
fraternity
90s,
that had
so.
been kicked off campus a few years before I got there.
They were on double secret probation.
Basically.
Yeah.
And they ran an underground casino on
Oh,
campus.
that's just
All right,
great,
I like
man.
this. It's like
And-
fucking Van Wilder here.
Yeah, and also had one of the biggest drug dealers on campus in our ranks.
Was it you?
It was not me, but it was the older brother of one of my best friends who
Okay.
I met day one because he was in the dorm room right across the hall. So, because I remember, I'll never forget meeting him. He said, we're doing that bullshit, like, what are you here to study, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, I'm here to take over the family business. I was like, oh, what's that? And he goes, well, my brother's the biggest, one of the biggest weed dealers on campus, so I'm here to take over that business.
I'm here to dethrone him.
I was like, no shit. He goes, you want to smoke? And I was like, hell, do I ever? So we go outside to a field across the street from the dorm. There's like a softball backstop fence or baseball and a big tree, and we get super high, like incredibly. I don't know if I'd ever smoked marijuana this good. I was smoking my buddy's dad's farm shit.
Yeah.
And so I get so high, I start reenacting when Noah first saw land, right, on the ark. And I'm reenacting it as, playing the different parts of the skeptic being like, no, that's not land. You've been eating the mushrooms off the cow shit again. Yeah. You know what I mean? This has happened too many times.
Yeah.
It's
a mirage.
It's really land. It's land. He's like, you got to stop eating those cow patties. And he's loving it. He just has, I'm killing him. I'm slaying this guy. And so afterwards he makes a deal with me. He's like, here's the deal. You'll never have to pay for weed. Ever. I'll make sure you always have marijuana. But there's the stipulation. Whenever I want to smoke with you, you have to smoke with me. He
So
goes,
you can
regardless of the circumstances.
Yeah.
And so I said, he probably didn't even have to finish before I said, agreed. And so, he'd wake me up in the middle of the night banging on my door. I'd have to wake up and get out of bed to go get high. One time I feel like he pulled me out of he like shows up outside of one of my classes and is just like, and I'm just like, and I just leave class.
That's a blood oth. I have to.
And so and it wasn't until
Bloody eye oath.
I think my junior year, we're getting ready to go out, and he's like, Singer, let's smoke. And I was like, okay. This deal's been going on for years. I've never paid for weed this whole time in college. This has been, and I was smoking like all the time. And then he sprinkles some fucking powder into the paper before he rolls up the joint. And I was like, what's that? And he goes, don't worry about it. Have I ever steered you wrong? And I was like, no.
Oh,
He
God.
goes, okay, so then, and I was also drinking a little bit of, just a tiny bit of mushroom tea that night.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that powder was. I'm guessing it was maybe angel dust or something, because I freaked out. Like, I had a freak out that I've never had before. We're in a diner late at night, and our waitress comes over, this older lady, and I remember like being like an asshole to her. And my friends are just
anxious or like,
just being like, hey, bring me my fucking coffee. What the fuck? What are you doing? Bring me my fucking food. Like, and my friends are like, dude, what is going, like, this
clearly
isn't-
not you.
That's not who you are. And then I was like, there's somebody fucking following me, dude. That's what the fucking problem is. There's somebody outside fucking following me. And they're like, what? I'm like, look, they keep peeking through the fucking window. Now they're peeking through the fucking door. And I saw this like head like looking at me. And then like through the windows, I saw this person like just watching me. And I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
You actually saw a person?
I thought I did, yeah.
Okay.
So I go outside. He gives me the keys to his car. I can't even get the key into the fucking keyhole.
Oh, my God.
I find a bucket in an alley right there. So I flip the bucket over, and I'm just sitting on this bucket in the alley. It's probably, 2 in the morning on whatever night it is, a Thursday or a Friday. And then somebody walks by, just a concerned citizen, and goes, hey, man, are you all right? You doing okay?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I'm not getting fucking tied up and put in your fucking trunk. I'm going to wake up in the middle of Montana in the basement. I'm going to be somebody's fucking gimp.
Yeah.
Because I think I just watched Pulp Fiction probably.
Yeah, this is very
within the last couple weeks.
Very Pulp Fiction.
So I go, you just need to get the fuck away from me, bro. He's just, hey, man, I'm just trying to see if you're okay. I'm like, you need to fuck off. Or whatever. And then that's the last thing I really remember, other than my friends finally coming out of the diner and finding me and putting me in the car and getting me home. And ever since then, I've just never really had great experiences smoking weed. Or like,
weird.
It was shortly after that on our way to a dog track. The 4 of us were going to a dog track to go bet on some dogs, and we were passing a couple pipes around in the car on the highway, and I wanted to throw myself out of the car because I got too high, and then it was just over for me after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so Anyway, like the guy writes a story saying that like we left this poor girl, we probably like insinuated like raped her.
Yeah.
And I'm just like there were no girls allowed at this fucking thing. Yeah. It's a ceremony. I see the article because I walk into the cafeteria and a bunch of my like fraternity brothers are sitting there and they go, "Singer, do you see this?" And I go, "What?" And they put down the school paper. It's the headline: Delta Tau Delta leaves young co-ed drunk and unconscious on front lawn. I was just like, well, who wrote this? And I take it and I storm off to the newspaper office and my big brother Mike is there and he's like, "Singer, don't do this. Singer, settle down. Singer, settle down." I go, "Don't tell me what to fucking do." And so I storm into the office and let's just say the guy's name was like Mike Kelly or whatever.
Yeah.
I go, "Where's Mike Kelly?" And everybody in the newspaper office is like, "I'm sorry, what's going on?" I was like, "I need to see Mike Kelly. Are you Mike Kelly? Are you Mike Kelly?" And I'm walking up to people. And they're like, and then finally out of a back door, like to the left, to another office area, this guy comes out. It's like, this kid comes out. He's like, "I'm Mike Kelly." And I was like, "You got some explaining to do." And I charge him. I was like, "This is all bullshit. None of this is fucking accurate. You need to get your facts right. You can get your fucking, this is some fucking, my buddy Mike grabs me and carries me out of the office. And he's just like, "Dude, that was crazy." And I go, "You got to stand up for what's right, right?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "No, I mean, like, that was fucking awesome." But, like, they printed a retraction the next day, I'm pretty sure. So I was always, like, fiery.
Yeah.
Were you fiery for justice, it seems? Like,
yes.
If you feel like you've been wronged.
If me or I'm noticing people are being wronged, I was like super into trying to stand up for them. I studied political science for a minute in college. But then I switched to theater. I was like, we need to get...
So that really first time on stage, you'd been through all these experiences, so you obviously weren't afraid to have attention on you, right? I mean...
Yeah, for sure.
Which would probably helpful getting on stage in front of,
And the main reason I studied theater at Bowling Green was because I knew I wanted to do stand-up. And
had you verbalized that before? Or was it just in the back of your mind?
No, I mean, I knew it as a very specific thing that I wanted to do.
Okay, yeah.
And so I said, I need to get comfortable on stage. I need to be comfortable performing. So I studied theater specifically for that reason.
Yeah.
And I always loved Michael Keaton and the fact that he started out as a stand-up.
Right.
That's so wild.
Fascinated me. And so, Robin Williams, huge fan, Steve Martin, like all my favorites started in stand-up. And so I was like, that's what I'll do. I'll start in stand-up. I'll never stop doing stand-up. But I also am going to do all this other
that
stuff.
opens you other avenues.
And so, that's why I studied. And then I dropped out after 4 years. Because a buddy of mine wanted to move to LA to be an actor. He graduated. So I was like, I don't need a theater degree, bro.
So this is at like 22?
Yeah, 21 or so. Because I was a summer birthday, so I was always a little younger. And then moved to LA for about 3 months.
It took it a couple times to stick?
Took it a few times, more than a few times to stick. I mean, I had like a fucking mental breakdown the first time I was out there.
So did you try stand-up the first time in LA?
No.
Okay.
I tried it at Joker's Open Mic Night.
Okay. And then you went to LA, or you went to LA and then came back?
I think I'd done maybe 2, maybe 3 open mics before I moved to LA to be a famous comedian.
Yeah.
I'm like, who knows? I'll be at an open mic and the Tonight Show will discover me. Like that kind of delusion.
Yeah, it's funny those delusions
that,
you have.
that most comedians start with. Thank God.
Yeah,
because
they'll take me on the road. Yeah.
So very delusional. Like every stand-up comedian has to be to get through those first 5 years.
I have a theory about that. Of you need just enough delusion to keep going, but like fucking.
Yeah, you do, because I mean, having been through it. I don't know one stand-up comedian who's been doing it for more than 10, especially 15 years, who would ever start over.
Yeah.
Or like.
But if you have too much delusion, you never get better. You need just
you
the
get
right
laugh
amount
ears.
to
the guys who got
to
laugh
keep
ears.
going. Yeah.
There's people who think they always kill, and it's like nobody was laughing. Like I killed. It's like, no one. we call them laugh ears. Me and my buddies, when we were coming, we called
Laugh ears?
them. Yeah, people got the laugh. You got afflicted with the laugh ears.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they think there's laughter when there's...
Yeah.
When there's nothing.
That was real good, right? Yeah. And then they never get
Yeah.
past that phase.
But after that first move to LA, I mean, I totally believe it was a mental breakdown. Because I reverted back to hyper religious
Really?
and got super religious. And that's when I started waiting tables at Joker's Comedy Cafe.
Oh, no kidding. I didn't know you were in
And-
that phase at that point. I remember
Well,
you
there
waiting
was
tables.
I worked there a bunch of different times.
Yeah.
You're
One of the
cling-
times I was in that phase for a
Okay.
little bit.
You're like clinging to that structure, or what? Why do you think it went?
I have no idea.
religious?
I needed something to like fall back
Just
on.
lost.
Yeah, and so I thought I was. I thought at the time I had this realization like stand-up comedy is the most selfish thing any person could ever pursue in their entire life, because it's all about you as an individual. At least acting, you're acting with people. But with stand-up, it's like I need to be here by myself with all the attention. And I was like, there is no sure way to punch a ticket to hell than to be a stand-up comedian.
Was this because you're doing awful at stand-up? Was this why? Honestly, was this why in your head? You're like, I fucking hate stand-up. Do you think that was?
No, it was unrelated to any way I felt about my stand-up.
Oh,
'Cause
really?
I
Okay.
was still in that delusional phase of like, I'm doing great stuff.
Oh, okay.
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Uh-huh.
So, and I was super religious. I'll never forget. I never heard the end of this from Lisa.
Lisa was the owner of Joker's at the time.
Okay.
They had, I don't know if you'd want me telling this story, but let's just say, hypothetically, there was, once a month they would do male strippers at the comedy club on a
Okay.
Tuesday.
Keep the lights on. Yeah.
And the place would be packed. And if you were a male server, you banked those nights. I mean, I'd come
Yeah,
home
of
from
course.
work and there'd be dollar bills in places that I didn't even realize.
Still finding them. Yeah.
Because the women would if you were a male server, they would just grab you and fucking, there was no sexual harassment policies
Yeah.
in place at the time. I mean, I had every part of my body grabbed, groped, squeezed, whatever, with like, no, hey, I'm going to grab your ass right now, or hey, let me grab your dick. Like,
Yeah.
there was none of that. It was just women just grabbing
They're
your
out of
dick.
control,
Yeah.
these ladies.
Oh, but men like it,
Yeah.
right? So, anyway, one night, it's one of those shows, and afterward, this woman who's at the show will not leave me alone. She is like persistent beyond all persistence, and to the point where she wants to take me outside, and forgive my crassness, but she's like, please let me just take you outside and give you a blowjob by the dumpster. And I was like, I'm sorry, no, that is not going to happen. I'm
Man,
like, I don't know.
that is a weird horned up lady request.
Yeah, right. I mean, she's just been watching naked dudes all night,
Yeah.
right? So she was all fired up.
That's hilarious.
And I had permission from
The boner.
the club itself
Okay.
to go do that. And I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, that's crazy. I'm not doing that. And
what kind
the,
of lady was this?
I don't really remember,
Okay.
but most men, I do remember this. 90% of men in this situation that were single,
Yeah.
because I was single, it's not like I was in a relationship
Yeah.
with someone, they would not have hesitated in this situation
Okay.
to take up this very generous request.
Probably middle-aged housewife-ish.
And so, but I was like, God is going to judge me if I do this shit. It was like,
Oh, okay.
I was like, I
forgot
can't
this
do
is-
this.
this
I
is
was
your
like-
religious
I was like, I
phase.
can't do this.
Okay.
This is crazy. Like, this is like a major sin. And then it got to the point where I wouldn't even leave the house because I was so paranoid about about the second coming of Jesus happening any moment.
Really?
I thought it was all unfolding.
No kidding.
I thought like end times were nigh. Like, I'm like, if I go to the grocery store, I see an attractive married woman. What if I think about like, oh, wouldn't that be nice? Isn't she beautiful? And now because in Catholicism, thinking about doing the sin is just as bad as doing the sin.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going to be at a grocery store. I'm going to see a married woman who's beautiful. I'm going to have a bad thought. And then Jesus is going to come back.
And that's it. Jesus
And I'm
is
gonna go
back.
to hell
I'm
on
going
a
to hell.
technicality.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have to stay at home to...
Man,
To avoid that,
to not
right?
sin.
So
Was
this
that just-
period didn't really last that long. But
Yeah.
it was like, that was at like the peak of it, right, for me. And then eventually I was just like, man, God should be like a puppy. You know, you shouldn't be a prisoner to it. It should improve it should add quality to your life. It shouldn't make you a prisoner at home to it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then I shed all that shit. And then went back to school, studied creative writing for joke writing purposes.
Yeah.
And then I got into an improv group, which eventually led me back into doing stand-up.
Yeah.
So.
How long did you initially do stand-up the first go-round?
Oh, geez.
Before coming back? A couple months?
Yeah, like I said, I probably only did a handful of open mics at the most.
Yeah.
So I don't even really count it as a start.
And then when did you, post the troupe, when did you land back into comedy? Into stand-up?
2002.
Oh, okay. So you're 19 years in now.
Because I was just graduating from Wright State when I was getting ready to
That's pretty
graduate.
much when I got on stage. I just graduated from college.
So is that where you guys met?
No, we met during stand-up, because again, I'm 10 years older than him, so I probably met you at Jokers or Wiley's. I'm sure I met you at Jokers or Wiley's. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was Jokers. And then, because I met a lot of people through Jokers as a waiter there.
Yeah.
And then as doing open mics, and then being an MC, and then running the open mics there. And then Wiley's, I was down at Wiley's every Wednesday back when they did open mics every week. And I would mostly hang out there during the weekends because it was more.
So you're just hanging
Jokers
around
had a
the
good
club.
hangout vibe. But
And
Wiley's
hanging
was
around
like
comedy
next
clubs is
level
the best,
hangout.
yeah.
Well, the
Wiley's
good thing
was next
about
level.
the two clubs is there was two different sets of comics. As far as Jokers was booked by Tom Silva out of Louisville, Wiley's was booked by the owner, and he had a big Chicago connection. So,
Solo booked it? I thought Lisa booked it all.
well, maybe when you started,
Oh, okay.
but when I started, she wasn't even there. It was Mike Bowling, the Pound Puppy guy.
yes. Yeah.
So that was all Tom Sobel. So, but basically, if the comic liked you, hey, you should do this, and then or whatever, or I'll make a call to this person, but you had two sets of different, because the
Two
Jokers,
leagues to
Jokers
play
were more
in, yeah.
Southern comics, I would say, because Sobel was in Louisville, so
Yeah.
and then the Chicago guys were all working for Ken Muller out like in Iowa and
Okay.
South Dakota, Nebraska, and stuff like that. So I was able to network pretty well. Plus, my dad was a printer, so I was doing over his business cards. So
Okay, yeah, that fucking helps.
yeah. But it was. We're lucky to have a good place to start because within a 5-hour radius, there was a lot of gigs, a lot of
clubs.
yeah.
Back at the time, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Cincinnati had 3, sometimes 4.
How far away was that?
About 50 miles.
Oh,
Go
okay.
Bananas. You still do Go Bananas.
Columbus was an hour and a half.
Yeah. Indy's 2 hours.
Cleveland, 3
Lexington,
hours.
Louisville, 2.5, 3 hours. Cleveland, 3 hours.
I think at one point we
did.
did the math when I was first starting out, and there was upwards of 30 clubs within a 6-hour drive.
Okay.
Of Dayton.
Yeah, that's a good run.
So it was a really good place. And like when I started out, I was like, I'm going to be a road guy. Like I want to make my living doing stand-up comedy. That's what the dream was.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely, I built up to that. And then over the years, especially the last 6 years or so, I've had a club owner tell me, "You're one of my favorite comics, top 5, but you don't have enough dick jokes for our audiences, so I don't work that club anymore." It's like, well, if I'm one of your
What?
top 5 favorite comics, you should. You'd think you'd find a week for me,
Yeah.
but that was in.
Don't have enough dick jokes.
Yeah. So, it's like, whatever. I mean, I try not to have dick jokes be my entire act. And I like talking about the stuff
Anything.
I
You
like
have to talk about anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Exactly. If you're a comic, you want to talk
But
about
I'm not
what-
up there doing like men and women are different,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So,
You think I should drop that bit?
yeah. I got this new bit about like the difference between space and time. People really relate to it.
Yeah.
But I didn't have enough of the relatable stuff, kind of is what he was
Wasn't the
saying.
day-to-day stuff.
Yeah, so I was like,
Well,
whatever.
somebody gave me some advice. He said sometimes it's not for you to figure out the audience; it's the audience to figure who you are out.
Yeah, I love that advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that's definitely
Yeah.
the way it is.
Yeah.
When you get to a certain point in your career where you can just be like, okay, I'm not a fucking kid anymore. I do know a little bit about this. I can, take ownership of that.
Yeah.
But
You're a great fucking comic, man.
Well, I appreciate
Watching
that.
you fucking work
Well, last night I was very impressed because,
impressive,
again,
yeah.
that was all new, and you have how many albums out now? 3, 4 albums?
4 albums.
4 albums, so...
Well, I mean, some of that stuff's from my last album, but I am working on the hour for filming because I don't have a filmed hour out yet.
Yeah, watching you, that was like
So-
effortless. That was.
But
Really enjoyed that.
I felt a little off last night. I was messing
Well,
up
I
words.
thought that was the first 5 minutes, maybe first 3 minutes or so, they weren't quite tuned into you, but yeah, you definitely drew them in, man, and then they loved you. By the end of the show, they loved you.
Yeah, it was one of those things too where, or I've had shows before where, about halfway through the show, or the set, I'll be like, I just want to make something clear. Like, you could have Googled me.
Yeah.
That I can't Google all of you.
Yeah, right.
I can't Google all of you.
I don't know you guys are going to be here.
So
You know I'm
you
going to
could-
be here, right?
You could have opted
it's
to
one of
not
those
be
things.
here.
So I was like, you could have Googled me, and if you Google me, there's no surprises coming your way because on the first page of Google, there's going to be an article that says Ryan Singer might be one of the weirdest comedians you see all year, stuff like that. Ryan Singer believes he dated a
Shapeshifter. I saw that on the way over here.
Yeah, so it's like you can, it's not. You're not getting Tim Allen.
Right, yeah.
But then you're also not divisive, though. You're not.
Well, I mean, I think the goal for me is, like we touched on this earlier, but I wanted to make people laugh.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to do something more than that. And I think, to deny that I want to do that would be foolish.
Yeah.
So I still want to do that. And like, if you can, the world itself is divisive enough. I don't, there's a fine line between pandering and trying to bring people together.
Yeah.
And so I'm definitely not trying to pander to. I mean, I'm obviously very liberal. I'm a socialist. If I had to pick like a political agenda.
Yeah.
See, I'm a capitalist, but I just suck at it.
Yeah. And so it's like, the funny thing about capitalism is, I tried to make this a joke, but it never works. I was like, if you get good enough at capitalism, they treat you as if you are now in socialism. Because to reach the highest level of capitalism, now you get all this free stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Like all these billionaires not paying taxes. That's that's beyond socialism. I mean, it's like if you get good enough at capitalism, you are now operating inside socialism.
Or even like on a smaller scale,
Well, I think
where celebrities
you're
get free
probably
shoes
dealing
and free
with
everything.
more
yeah.
important people, and politicians want your donation, and once you donate to politicians, you're going to probably be treated differently than somebody like me.
And like Elon Musk getting billions of dollars from the government, and
Fucking
and
bananas.
grants and things like that. Meanwhile, being on record on Twitter, on everywhere else, saying that Americans should not be getting pandemic support.
Yeah.
Saying that they need to work and stuff like that. Meanwhile, he's getting billions of dollars from the federal government to fund his sex robots or whatever he's got in his fucking basement.
Well, at least
And
he's
it's just
putting good stuff together now. At
It's
least,
like he can go. Elon Musk can go fuck himself, and but that's what I mean by you become so good at capitalism, you're now operating inside socialism.
Yeah, you transcend it. Yeah.
You transcend it. And Elon Musk is a perfect example of that. And he's also just a total piece of shit. But when you're a billionaire, you're almost you're like the new Teflon Don, forget John Gotti. It's like, you can't, these rich people think they're untouchable.
Yeah.
And that's why they do some of the craziest
kind of
shit
are.
I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
Right?
they get away with it.
Yeah, they get
I mean,
away
how
with
many
it.
went to Epstein Island, for God's sake?
Exactly. So, so it is nice to think that you can do something with stand-up comedy more than just make people laugh.
Yeah.
Maybe plant a little seed in their mind about Bigfoot or about paranormal stuff, or make people realize that hey, your TV is fucking. I always forget the line, but it's it's not Stockholm syndrome where you fall in love with your oppressor. It's Stockholm syndrome. Especially during the pandemic, the last year and a half, so many people suffer from Stockholm syndrome, and they believe the master that has their oppressor that is living inside their TV, whether that's Fox News or whether that's CNN. It's just abusive shit coming constantly through there.
Yeah,
and they just don't tune out because they just consume
you're right
it
about
every
that.
single day, all day long.
Yeah.
There's a difference between
You think it's an
checking in.
addiction almost,
I think it is.
It's a fear
And
addiction, maybe?
It's
I
also
don't know.
boredom.
Yeah.
People are retired, so they just watch Fox News all day. It's like my mom.
And now the news is such grab a hold and everything's on the clinch of everything's on the brink and
Yeah.
keep them
So-
listening, keep everyone.
So we're suffering and it's been 20 years.
It's
9/11
wild.
was really when it started, where politics got a hype, man. you know?
Yeah.
But it's, so like if you can try to help people cut through all that and realize, we're not that different. I used to do a joke, it's so dirty, but it would always work. It's like, pussy farts are funny. It doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter
Yeah,
what color
no.
the pussy's coming out of. A pussy fart's funny. It doesn't matter what god that pussy worships. You know what I
true,
mean?
yeah.
When it farts, it's,
It
tweets,
transcends
it's funny.
all that.
It transcends all that.
Yeah.
And so when you get people, especially a diverse crowd, together in the same room laughing at the same joke,
Yeah.
it is probably, in my opinion, and I'm very biased because I'm a comedian, it is probably the purest way to bring people together.
I agree.
And to show that, like, oh my God, like, yeah, there's lots of things that make us different, that's cool, because there's uniqueness now. These things don't need to be barriers and blockades.
Yeah.
But it's like, and I get angry, I get fired up just like everybody else. But if you can, like, I try to make an effort to not be the angry comedian. I try to be the opposite of that.
Yeah, which definitely
Yeah, you always seem
reads
to,
in your act.
I never get that vibe from you as far as you have an intensity about you.
But there's
Yeah, I would never call it angry. And if anything, you get kind of giddy up there sometimes.
a whimsy, yeah.
Whimsy is a good word, yeah.
But yeah, and then like having the message, modern stand-up comedy got so infected with the message that it got like so many new comics get stuck on that over funny.
Yeah,
You're also
or if you
super
find that
funny.
whoever's the flavor of the month, everybody's copying that person. You've seen that over the years from whatever.
It's very true.
Yeah, I never understood, because back in the day it used to be kind of like shock, right? Was a thing like, shock comic.
Well, Dice Clay when I first started was that was
And it's like these young comics or other comics or whoever, it's like they forget about, where's the joke?
yeah.
When's the joke coming?
Yeah.
And there are comics who don't write jokes because, like you said, it's all about the message, and oftentimes that message is hateful,
Yeah.
and it's not funny, and it's only funny to people who also
Right.
hate in the
agree
same
with
way.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, it's not a comedy show. It's it's a rally, and to say something just because it's going to piss everyone off. I'm not going to say that there's no value in that. Sometimes maybe, but where's the fucking joke?
Yeah,
make it
exactly.
funny.
Yeah.
Like I had a guy who worked at the restaurant with me while people were still falling out of the buildings on 9/11. We were at work on TV at the restaurant. He's making jokes about 9/11 as it's still happening.
God, yeah, that's
and
a
I was
lot.
just like, I'm not trying to make a value judgment here, man, but you're fucking dead inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's your empathy?
Yeah.
You have no empathy at all. Like you are so afraid of confronting the reality of what is happening in our real world right now that you become even uglier than it.
Yeah.
It's sad, really.
Fucking wild. Jesus.
Yeah, and it's just like, man.
And that was a waiter, not a stand-up.
yeah,
Right? Jesus
Yeah.
Christ. Who's more jaded, you think? Waiters
Right?
or stand-ups?
That's tough. I've never seen a stand-up follow someone to the parking lot and throw $1 at him and be like, there's waiters who will go
Yeah.
out.
I've
Like, if
heard
they
those
get
stories,
tipped in
yeah, yeah.
coins.
Yeah.
There was one waiter
You
who
need
was
this
so
more than I do.
dark and so funny. He never did stand-up. Not the same guy, but it wouldn't have surprised me if I heard a similar joke from him about like 9/11 while it was happening. But one time he's waiting we had Sunday brunch at O'Charlie's, and he's waiting and we hated it because there were always these big church groups who would come in and they never fucking tip.
Funny how that
And,
works.
Party of 6 or more though, you get to gratuity them. So you're like, oh, at least I get to do that.
Built-in
Yeah.
15%.
So
yeah.
he drops off the check to his church group, and the guy goes, "I'm sorry, why is there a 15% gratuity on here?" And he goes, "Oh, well, parties of 6 or more, it's an automatic gratuity out. It's restaurant policy." And he goes, "But you understand, I only give God or I only give Jesus 10%. And he looks at him and he goes, well, when's the last time Jesus got you a refill? And thank God he didn't get fired. The guy got really upset. But I was like, that is one of the best jokes on the spot I've ever heard.
Yeah. It's hilarious.
Oh, Jesus, at least and my water turns to wine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very funny. Oh, I didn't know how late you want to do this, but the door's
time
going
is
to
it?
open up. It's about almost 7 now. 7
Oh,
o'clock.
okay, yeah, I got a shower.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to do that Bigfoot story, but that's too long of a story. So.
Yeah, it's way too long.
But yeah, man, thanks a lot for doing this. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll do a cryptid quiz another time.
Perfect. Sounds good. All right. Thanks a lot, bro.
Oh, wait, let me plug something real quick.
Yeah, good call.
My app, Crystallize, EYES, Crystal, EYES, comes out. It's a photo identification app for crystals. It's got a crystal database, a metaphysical directory. It's got horoscopes, all kinds of cool stuff. It should be available in the App Store within a week or two.
You got a link for it?
Crystallize.app.
Okay, I'll put that
Just
in.
go to the website, and
Cool.
if it's able to be downloaded, you can get to the download links from there.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll put the link in the description.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks a lot,
Thanks.
man. Good
All
night.
right.
I made this.